This module will focus on artificial intelligence, or AI, as applied to parenting. What does AI for parenting mean? And more importantly, what could it mean for the future? Perhaps no technological development has captured our imagination so thoroughly as artificial intelligence, or AI. In our culture and in our imaginations of the future, AI has taken on almost mythic proportions. Some imagine a future in which science fiction is made reality. In the best case, we get Data from Star Trek. In the worst case, HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Others imagine a future of everything from self-driving cars to highly personalized and optimized education and healthcare to pervasive and invasive surveillance and much, much more. The ways we envision AI developing and shaping our society reflect both our desires and our fears. You might think that AI for parenting is far in the future, envisioning robot nannies like Rosie from the Jetsons, or sentient smart houses to watch over our children. But in reality, AI is already here, and parents are likely already using it today. If a parent has ever asked Siri or Alexa to help them with their child's math homework, they've used AI for parenting. If they've ever used Google Maps to give their child the best directions for driving to a friend's house, they've used AI for parenting. To understand the sheer scope of AI for parenting, both what it means now and everything it could mean, let's first step back and ask, what is AI and what is parenting?
Okay, so AI, that's the Terminator, right? Well, not quite. According to the Oxford Dictionary, AI is the theory and development of computer systems and applications able to perform tasks normally requiring human intelligence. Those are applications like your favorite search engine or the face recognition function on your phone. Philosophically speaking, ideas around AI stem back millennia to myths of automaton guardians in Crete and Mesopotamia, or even a limited constraint chess playing machine in 1914 Paris. But the term artificial intelligence was coined by John McCarthy at the 1955-56 Dartmouth Conference. It came on the coattails of Alan Turing's theory of computation. Those at the conference contemplated where the future of computational systems might lead, or if they could tackle human problems. Early computer programs were put to different uses, first proving math theorems, then trained to play various games, and ambitiously affixed to robot bodies for clumsy tasks like, say, washing cars, as was the case for the 1966 Shaky robot, or mimicking therapist responses like Eliza, the first chatbot in 1964. Now, steady improvement in computer chip capacity continued through the end of the 20th century and still does today, according to Moore's law, that chip capacity doubles every 2 years while their price is halved. And now this is a big breakthrough. Higher capacity means more speed and more storage, things that bode well for biological brains as well as thinking machines. As computers got faster, they started beating humans at backgammon, checkers, chess, Go in 2015. But another breakthrough was still needed for AI to really come into its own. To learn and execute more quickly and accurately, AI programs would need more data to learn from. Luckily, that's just what unfolded at the turn of the century, when interconnectivity through the internet and shortly thereafter the proliferation of personal mobile computing devices provided an explosion of data. AI applications finally had the volume of content to become proficient at deeper tasks like recognizing human faces, translating language, or predicting lifestyle changes.
Hold on, but let's pause. It sounds like these programs have their own appetite. Okay, let's be clear. AI applications are just computer programs written by coders. They aren't conscious. They don't make their own decisions. They follow instructions just very, very quickly and very well. But let's dive a bit deeper into what AI is and all its variation. Now, AI is often categorized in evolutionary stages, then types, and then domains. The domains are the more familiar terms we hear thrown around today. At the broadest level, AI has three proposed stages of evolution. First, ANI, artificial narrow intelligence, followed by AGI, artificial general intelligence, and the last would be ASI, artificial super intelligence. Now, these correspond to a machine's degree of intelligence as compared to a human's. All we have currently, is ANI. Artificial general intelligence, your strong AI, as it's also known, would be a machine equivalent in capacity to a human. And well, ASI, that would completely surpass us. Within the current ANI stage, there are four types of AI according to their operating capacities. First is reactive machines. Reactive machines are those that can only accomplish the single task they're programmed for, kind of like the Deep Blue computer that mastered chess. I mean, it couldn't even play checkers. Number 2 is limited memory machines. Limited memory machines include nearly every mention of modern AI that you're actually familiar with. Things like machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, robotics interface, fuzzy logic, image processing, and computer vision. Now, notice how many of these align with human sensory modes or logical constructs. This level of AI, limited memory machines, has the ability to tackle new tasks from prior adaptive computations, an example of which would be AlphaZen, a limited memory gaming AI that was not taught to play the game Go specifically, but when introduced to it, learned it on its own, then beat all the other AIs. It literally beat all simpler reactive machine counterparts. Similar examples would be computers that learn ethnicities after analyzing thousands of portraits, or an autonomous car camera that distinguishes between inanimate and human objects. Now, Type 3 and Type 4 are yet to be developed and closer to what we would consider artificial general intelligence, your strong AI. They are called respectively theory of mind machines, number 3, and self-aware machines, number 4. And we will have readings on them later for those who wish to learn a little bit more.
AI for parenting can mean AI-driven toys that collect data and learn about children in order to interact with them. It could mean smart baby monitors that learn to identify why babies are crying and even respond to them. It could mean smart home systems like security systems that keep children safe. It could mean apps that use data on children and parents to build profiles of children and suggest personalized educational activities for parents to do with their children or give personalized parenting advice. We aren't at robot nannies or sentient smart houses yet, but as AI continues to develop, that could also be a possibility. The goal of AI for parenting is presumably to use AI technologies to help parents be better parents. Sounds pretty straightforward, right? After all, it seems obvious what good parenting means, right? According to the American Psychological Association, the 3 general goals of parenting are to ensure children's health and safety, prepare children to be productive adults, and transmit cultural values. But the meanings of health, safety, and productivity, and what it means for a child to do well in life, are constantly shifting and changing depending on cultural context. Is your child's success in life measured by their academic achievements, their IQ, whether or not they get married or get divorced, how much money they make? Ideas of what makes a good parent and what makes a bad parent are also constantly shifting. Are the best parents the ones who make sure their child has every resource they need to succeed? Then what about parents who can't afford tutors and test prep, extracurriculars, and prestigious colleges? Are the best parents the ones who stay home with their children to take care of them? Then what about parents who need to work to support their families? Does every child need both a mother and a father to thrive? Then what about children raised by single parents, divorced parents, grandparents, older siblings, or same-sex couples? Anybody designing any kind of AI tool to be used in parenting starts with their personal ideas of what it means for a child to be safe and healthy and to do well in life, and how those outcomes can and should be measured, as well as what it means to be a good parent. Those ideas and values inform the design of any technology. Depending on who is guiding the development and regulation and distribution of AI for parenting, AI technologies have the power to change and even define what it means to be a good parent in the future.
Parents using technology to help raise their children and improve or augment their parenting abilities is nothing really new. Throughout history, new technologies from television to smartphones to cars and the internet have all changed the ways that parents parent. Bells have been fastened in bassinets for a long time, and the Bakelite Zenith Radio Nurse, as it was called, was a baby monitor marketed as early as the 1930s. Not to be outdone, of course, by AI-driven video detectors now. So what makes AI different, or is AI just a new tool for an age-old task? If parents use AI to help manage the basic tasks of providing for health and safety, then AI is being used much like any other technology and might be dated all the way back to Islamic scholar Ismail al-Jaziri's 12th century human-like automated devices that could already wash your hands or serve you water. Maybe it's more the complexity of the task commanded, though. Well, AI educational apps and toys have the potential to learn about and interact with children in a personalized way, to teach and play with and soothe them in a way a parent might. These tools also promise optimization for an individual child beyond what parents may be capable of doing on their own, though. Educational toys and apps may carry with them the promise of getting to know a child better than their own parents. As AI advances, so will its applications to every aspect of parenting, from child development to education to safety to companionship and more. As a few psychologists have put it, do we need AI to parent? Probably not. Will we get it anyways? You betcha. It will be up to parents to remain vigilant about what aspects of the parenting relationship they want to keep firmly as analog human interactions. In an illustrative way, this is what the Amish already do via a set of surprisingly sophisticated rules they call an ordnung that guides discretion over allowing technologies in certain parts of the community and the home. As AI applications for parenting grow, parents won't be the only stakeholder with an interest in or influence over how AI gets applied and what values go into designing it. Many experts working in the areas of human systems and human-computer interaction voice that AI itself is largely an outcrop of a utility-maximizing capitalistic culture, and thus, eventually commercialization of every nook and cranny of the parenting relationship will be attempted at some point. So you can be sure, too, that policymakers, regulators, educators, and advocacy groups will step in as well. This was just the case when the company Mattel shelved a child-centered smart speaker called Aristotle after an advocacy group, Campaign for a Commercial-Free Childhood, confronted the toy maker on privacy grounds and its attempts to market directly to children. Also, sometimes unexpected effects compel more actors in the space, as was the case when AI-driven babysitter vetting app Predictum faced legal backlash for prejudicing users against hiring certain babysitters. Their algorithm prejudged trustworthiness based off of potential babysitters' entire social media footprint and questionably redirected users away from certain demographics. Thus, employment rights lawyers were now somehow involved with AI for parenting.
The many potential implications of AI for parenting include issues of mass data collection and security, privacy, the power afforded to tech companies, concerns about health and well-being of parents and children, inequality of access to AI technologies, and the impact of inequality of access to AI for parenting on necessities such as education, childcare, and healthcare. Should tech companies behind AI technologies for parenting be able to own and be allowed to sell or share the data they collect about parents and children? Will AI technologies be available and accessible universally, or will the cost and the time and the resources needed be prohibitive for many, leaving many children and families behind? Technologies that were developed fairly recently, like cars and the internet and computers and cell phones, have become essential to our way of life. It's no longer practical for people to meaningfully opt out, to say, I don't want to drive a car or I don't want to use the internet or a cell phone, because without those technologies in their lives, they can't access other necessities like income, housing, and education. Will people be able to meaningfully opt out of using AI for parenting if they choose not to do so? Or will it become essential to life in the way internet is now? Will parents effectively have no choice but to use AI technologies if not doing so forecloses vital opportunities and necessities for their children? In our culture, there are dominant, widely held ideas about who is a good parent and what that means, and those ideas are baked into our technologies and social infrastructures as well. For example, the United States is one of 2 countries in the entire world that doesn't provide paid maternity leave, an institutional failing born out of the cultural presumption that good parenting means women stay at home with children while men work. Good parenting is tied to wealth and social status, so the ability to afford resources like tutors and music classes to help your child succeed means that parents who cannot afford those resources are shamed as bad parents. AI for parenting can exacerbate those inequalities and lead to further stigma against parents who can't afford it. The technologies themselves, depending on the data they are programmed with and the questions they are programmed to answer, can bring with them ideas about what makes a child healthy or smart, ideas that become reinforced as objective truths because they come from a seemingly neutral source. As AI applications for parenting continue to develop and proliferate, it is important to consider its possible societal implications and to pay attention to what the consequences of such technologies might be. We can't forget that AI does not exist separately from us. We program it, we tell it what to do, we decide what data to put into it. All of those design choices are value judgments that humans make. Depending on who designs a particular technology, what assumptions about good and bad parents get baked into it, and how deeply that technology becomes embedded into the structures of our society, AI technologies for parenting have the potential to determine what it means to be a good parent for the parents of the future.
Right now, it's okay to have more questions than answers. There's no need to feel overwhelmed. A world of evil robot nannies is by no means inevitable, nor a world of angelic robot nannies for that matter, outperforming us at every step. Parenting takes many forms, and we've been doing it effectively out of instinct long before we had language, schools, disposable diapers, or minivans to shuttle the JV team to practice. With any new technology comes concerns. Regulation over things like privacy, manufacturing safety, proper use, and age appropriateness will be inevitable. And in fact, there are government agencies responsive to parents' particular concerns over these topics now. So, in conclusion, we don't know for sure what AI for parenting will look like in the future, what forms it will take, and how it will shape society. Remember, though, just because it is called artificial intelligence does not mean it is outside of our influence or out of our control. We socially construct its use. Applied to parenting, AI potentially presents a vast and diverse set of tools, but it will be up to all of us what kinds of tools are created, who has access to them, how they are used, and how they change what it means to be a parent.